Welcome back. In this lesson, we will go over security groups in depth. Before we talk about security groups, I want to go over some common ports we will see in our lectures and labs, and some that you will definitely see while working in the cloud. Now, some of you may have seen these before, or maybe even have used them, but it's always nice to go over these. We will start with port 80 and 443. Port 80 is used by the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTP. This is used to serve your websites or applications through the internet. Most of the popular websites like Facebook and GitHub use port 443, which is a secured version of HTTP. It is also used to serve websites to your clients, and clients being your mobile phone or laptop. FTP, or File Transfer Protocol, uses port 21. This is the unsecured version of transferring files between devices, either locally or through the internet. You really shouldn't be using FTP. You should be using SFTP, or Secure File Transfer Protocol, instead, which functions over port 22 and uses SSH to transfer files. Talking about SSH, or Secure Shell, it allows communication between two computers in a secure way. And we will be using it in this course to connect to our EC2 Linux instances. And we will also be using port 3389, which is used by Remote Desktop Protocol, or RDP, which was developed and maintained by Microsoft for Windows-based computing devices. We also will be using this in our labs. Security groups are basically firewalls that function off IP ranges and port numbers. They are firewalls because they restrict the traffic that gets into our EC2 instances with rules, and these firewalls implicitly deny everything by default. In simple terms, they deny everything unless we specify a rule. For example, we cannot connect to our EC2 instances unless we create a rule that says we can use the RDP or SSH protocol, which again, they use the 3389 and 22 ports, respectively. But we don't have to create allow rules for traffic going out of the security group, because all traffic is allowed out of the security group by default, which makes security groups stateful firewalls, because any changes applied to an incoming rule will automatically be applied to the outgoing rule. Now, these security groups can reference a specific IP address or an IP range. They can also reference another security group. So, why is this helpful? Well, if you have three security groups, we will call them A, B, and C, and you want security group A to allow both security group B and C, all you have to do is create an allow for those two without having to specify any IP addresses. And anything in security group B or C will automatically be allowed. Now, sometimes you do have to be careful because you could place something in groups B or C that you didn't necessarily want to have access to group A. But as long as you have it documented somewhere, you should be fine. Just something to be mindful of. Enough theory. Let's get started with our lab. For our lab, I currently have a Windows EC2 instance inside of the EC2 lab security group. I will attempt to remote into our EC2 instance. I went ahead and configured everything beforehand because the point of this video is to show you how security groups work. In future videos, we will be going over the launching of EC2 instances and how to decrypt our access keys to get passwords for RDP, but this video, I already have all of that in place. As you can see, we currently have the one EC2 instance running. On the left, I will scroll down till I see security groups under Network and Security, and I will click on that. I see my EC2 Lab Security Group. I will select it, and in this other window pane, I will click on the Inbound Rules tab. I'll click on Edit Inbound Rules, and as you can see, we currently only have the SSH rule, like I showed you in the previous slide. I will go back to our EC2 Instances window, and I will select our Windows EC2 instance. I'll click on Connect, And this will open up a new window, and we'll click on the RDP Client tab. As you can see, I already get a warning telling me I won't be able to connect because my current security group does not have port 3389 enabled. But we'll try anyway. I'll click on the Download Remote Desktop File button. This has everything pre-configured to be able to connect. All I would need would be the decrypted password from my access keys, which I already have. I will open up the RDP file and attempt to connect. As you can see, my RDP client is getting hung up, meaning I'm unable to connect. What do you think I need to do to fix this? Do you think adding the port 3389 to the outbound or inbound rule set for my EC2 lab security group would help? Well, let's try and we'll see. Let's go back to our EC2 lab security group and add the port 3389 to the outbound rules. I will look for the RDP protocol, and as you can see, the port is 3389, and we'll specify our destination as anywhere, which is denoted as 0.0.0.0/0 CIDR. For IPv6, the anywhere address is denoted as ::/0, but we'll leave it as IPv4 anywhere address. We'll click on Save Rules, and then immediately try to open up our RDP file again and attempt to connect. It doesn't seem to be working. And as you can see, we got the unable to connect error once again. Remember that I said security groups are stateful firewalls. So we need to specify this port rule as an inbound rule, not as an outbound rule, because the traffic is being initiated from my computer into the AWS EC2 instance, meaning it is coming inbound from my computer into the EC2 instance. So I will go back to our outbound rules in our security group, and I will look for the RDP rule, and I'll delete it. And I'll commit my changes by clicking on the Save Rules button. Now, let's try adding it to the inbound rule set. I will click on the Inbound Rules tab. Then I'll click on the Edit Inbound Rules. I will click Add the RDP port with the source as anywhere for the IPv4 range. Everything looks good, so I will go ahead and click on Save Rules and then immediately try to open up our RDP file once again and attempt to connect. As you can see, it now prompts me for a password. I'll paste in the decrypted password and I'll click on Continue. And then click on Continue once again. Look, now it's loading our Windows session. And I am now logged into the Windows EC2 instance. Now, I just want to drive home the idea of security groups and inbound rules. As you saw in the lab, the traffic was being initiated from outside of the EC2 instance security group and was going inbound to the EC2 instance. We created the inbound rule, and then our connection was allowed into the EC2 instance. At that point in time, there was no outbound rule because we had deleted it. Because again, security groups are stateful firewalls, meaning any changes applied to an incoming rule will automatically be applied to the outgoing rule without us having to manually apply it. I hope in this video, I helped you further understand how security groups work and got some hands-on with the lab. I'll see you in the next video.